Alright, YouTube world, Justin here. We're number 3 going through my CD collection. It's really late, but being an old man, this is when I get time to myself. Okay, so we're almost done with the A's, so let's get into this. Let's see what I can bang out here. I'm going to do 4 or 5 CDs here at once. It's a couple bands. If you watch my first video, I talked about a really big trade I did a bunch of years ago, and I got a bunch of CDs at once, and it's a bunch of stuff that, I mean, I don't listen to, I'm not into, necessarily. So 2 of those from that were, Antigama or Antigama, I'm not sure how to say it, they're a grind band. They ended up on Relapse, they're on Relapse now, but these are 2 older releases on Self-Made God. I've never even opened them. I have a good friend who really likes this band, and I gave him a couple copies of these as well, because he saw them and he said, oh, those are older and harder to get, I think. Intellect Made Us Blind and Zero Land. These both came out on the Self-Made God. I'm not sure what year, 2005 and 2006. So they're getting pretty old. But I've heard this band, but it never piqued my interest enough to listen to these. So next is Antagony on Deep Send Records, and Anoxia on Pathos Productions. I've seen Anoxia's name thrown around a bunch, and I don't know why I've never opened this. When you got a lot of CDs like I do, eventually you'll get around to it, and I guess there's been other things that have been more important to get to first. But this is Intense Killings. Not sure when it came out, a long time ago. And then this is called Days of Night. I'm assuming they're both death metal bands, but I'm not familiar with either one of them. And then we have Antichrist, which is a precursor to Blasphemy. This was not part of that giant trade that I did. This was via Nuclear War Now, and I've mentioned in my first video I'm a graphic designer, and Nuclear War Now is one of a label I work with a lot and for a very long time now. And I've been to the label's headquarters several times and kind of pilfered through all of his stock and come home with bunches of stuff. And this is when I got that. And I have an open copy somewhere, because I have listened to this, but for some reason I still have a sealed one. I think I gave the open one to a buddy of mine. So next is Apocalypse Command. I have 2 full lengths from them. One self-titled, and the next one is called Damnation Size of Invincible Abomination. Apocalypse Command is Gene Palabicki from Angel Corpse and Perdition Temple, and this is more or less a solo project from him. And I think on one of these there's a drum machine, and the other one has a session drummer. Yeah. This is, it's not a full length, it is a demo, and it has a drum machine, I think. And then this one has a session drummer. This was the full length. And Apocalypse Command kind of treads the water between Angel Corpse and Perdition Temple. It's not as technical. It's more of a brutal sound. It's a lot heavier than those bands. And it's good stuff. I don't think Gene's doing it anymore. But these are good releases. I really like this album. And then this is a demo that Gene gave me. And I believe it is the demo self-release version of this. Yeah. So, maybe this is rare. Will I give it up? Probably not. Okay. Next is Apostolum, another sealed CD. This is getting to be a kind of an ongoing theme here. But I mean, I own a lot of music. So if it's not something that I went out of my way to get, it's kind of been put on the back burner. This is a black metal band. It came out on Moribund Productions. If you're familiar with Moribund, they released black metal. Most famously, they released all the Judas Iscariot stuff, who we will talk about at length once we get to the J's. Hell, I might even do a Judas Iscariot video itself. I've never listened to this. It's black metal. I know that much. I got this in that giant trade that I talked about, where I acquired a bunch of stuff that has been sitting on my shelves for years. And I talked about in that video where the owner of that distro would put his sticker on all the titles. He had to put his name everywhere, and there's his sticker on the back. Next up is Ares Kingdom. Now, Ares Kingdom relates to Angel Corp's kind of 6 degrees of separation. Chuck Keller, who plays guitar in Ares Kingdom, was in Order of Chaos before that, and Pete Helmkamp was also in Order of Chaos. When Order of Chaos broke up, Pete formed Angel Corps, and Mike Miller and Chuck Keller went on to form Ares Kingdom, and they're still around today. So I have 2 of their albums. This one is called Return to Dust. I think it was their first full length on Nuclear War Now. They play a kind of a thrashy death metal sound. They're from the Midwest, and I refer to them as Midwest metal. They kind of have this sound that I think that bands from the Midwest kind of cater to. This is their next album, Incendiary, and I did all of the layout and design on this record. This version is a little digibook. Now, what happened is we worked on this record for a long time. Lots of phone calls between me and Alex Bloom, the bass player, singer of this band. I talked to Chuck a few times on the phone, but Alex would call me daily throughout the whole process, and we'd talk about the layout. They were the most involved band I have ever worked with doing a record's layout and design. They had a vision, and they were super cool to work with and cool to talk about, and they never gave me a hard time. They knew what they wanted without being direct or jerks about it, and it was awesome. And I get to talk to these guys that are from bands that I grew up loving, and we've been buddies ever since. But we did a regular jewel case version of this, and an LP, of course. But they were going to play the first Nuclear War Now festival, which Yosuke from Nuclear War Now has put on a festival. He does it every 2 years. He's did it for a while now. But the CD was not going to be done in time. So we threw together this version, and he had them pressed locally in San Francisco. I think there's like 100 of these. So this might be a sought-after item for Ares Kingdom fans. Now, musically, I'm not the biggest fan of Ares Kingdom. I've never seen them, and I hear that they're really awesome live. But I will listen to them from time to time, but sonically, it's not really my thing. But they're great dudes and great songwriters. Next is Arpfaxat. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. This is a black metal band from France, and there's someone in this band that's in a more famous band, and I cannot remember who it is without pulling up Metal Archives and looking. But this is French black metal that has kind of a romantic look to it. It's real grim sounding though. It's real riffy. It has a nice atmosphere to it. And when this first came out, I listened to it a good bit. I really enjoyed it. I got it in a trade from Hell's Headbangers. I also have the vinyl version. I used to do a lot of trading with Chase and Hell's Headbangers, so I got a lot of their releases, and they put out killer shit. Everybody knows that. Next is Archeon. This is another trade CD. The best I can remember, this is kind of standard chunky death metal, but I don't know. Here's an interesting one, Archgoat. Archgoat, of course, is a Finnish black metal band. They're a really thick, a heavy black metal band that existed in the early 90s and then broke up and then got back together about 10 years ago. This is their first full length, but they did not release it until they were back together, so they've been a band for 20 years before they ever released a full length. This version, I downloaded and made my own computer paper copy, and I printed a CD label and everything and made my own kind of bootleg version. I don't know why I did that, but I own all of their stuff on vinyl. I have a lot of CDs, and I'm doing videos about my CD collection, but I probably have just about as many records, and we'll get into those one day. Next is Argentum with Ad Interitum Funebrarum. Funebrarum, just like the death metal band Funebrarum. This is a doom band from South America. This is on Full Moon Productions, kind of a cult black metal label from Florida that existed in the 90s and into the 2000s. And if anyone was ever on the Full Moon forums, I hate it for you. There are so many jokes from that forum that still exist between me and some buddies of mine that will go to our graves. But that forum was just a cesspool of metal, just buffoonery. But Argentum, this is a really good, dreary, dark, kind of black doom CD. I've never listened to any of their other material. I bought this kind of randomly. Full Moon used to send out these paper catalogs and get them in the mail, and I think I was just like, oh, that looks cool, and I ordered it, and I've always really liked this CD. Next up is Armor. Armor is the kind of glam rock alter ego of Laurie from Satanic Warmaster and a dozen other bands, but this is like Wasp worship. It's just killer riffy, like 80s heavy metal, kind of glam metal stuff, and it's real hokey and tongue-in-cheek. It's a little dark, you know, likes to sex and Satan, but I fucking love this shit. We have Arson Anthem. Arson Anthem is kind of a little super group. It's Mike Nine from I Hate God, Hank Williams III playing drums, Phil Anselmo's playing guitar on this. It's a hardcore punk project. It's decent, you know, it's 8 songs in 11 minutes, something like that. I don't think they've ever done anything else, but I really enjoyed this when it came out. It's just, you know, it's old dudes busting out old hardcore punk songs that they love. So that's the kind of shit I like. Artery Eruption, some brutal death metal. I don't remember. This came out on Severed Records. I did a big trade with Severed years ago. Like I mentioned in my first video, I really like brutal death metal, and we'll get into a lot of that stuff. But I don't remember really. I don't care for the CD that much. I think the vocals I didn't like. But Artery Eruption, driving my fist through her chest. There are times when I will just grab a stack of like 10 brutal death metal CDs, and I'll put them in my car, and that's all I listen to for 2 weeks. And it's a lot of it's so interchangeable. But so we have Artemis Piledriver. Artemis Piledriver was a metal band from here in Atlanta 10-15 years ago, and they kind of had that southern metal sound like Alabama Thunder Pussy, or you know, a little bit of Clutch, just riffy, you know, kind of boogie down, dirty honky tonk metal songs. And I liked them, and I had heard their demos and stuff. And then when I was first starting to branch out and do some design work for bands, they put out a call for cover design, and I sent this in. And this is just a picture, some vultures, and I adjusted the colors a little bit and did some editing to the backgrounds. And I had put a logo on it, and I get a message that I had won their little contest or whatever, but they wanted to use their own logo, which isn't a logo at all. It's just a font with some shitty drop shadow and stroke on it. This one came out on a major label. This came on DRT Productions, or DRT Entertainment, in 2006, so about 12 years ago. And the band broke up as soon as this came out. The label went under. Clutch put out their record Robot Hive on this label around the same time, and then they went under. They were a subsidiary of another larger label, and I think some guys spent too much money. But there's a really, really good song on this, and then the rest of it's just kind of boring. It didn't hold up to the single. So that's what happens with a lot of mainstream bands. We have Arum. Arum is a black metal band. This is Inhuman Echoes from the Shadows on Killzone Records. I'm not familiar with Killzone Records. Can't remember. These guys are from South America or Mexico. This is your standard black metal record. I throw it in occasionally. It's been a long time since I've listened to it. We have Assault. Assault is South American black metal. It's real violent sounding. This came out on Death Rash Armageddon Productions. And I picked this up from Nuclear War Now when I was at Nuclear War Now. It looks sick. Anything with dudes in it that look like that, more spikes the better. Alright, this is a comp. One thing, my comps, I don't put them, well, some of them are in the various artists section, and some of them are just listed by the name. And I think that I started doing it one way and then started doing it another way and didn't realize it. So they're kind of scattered. This is called As the Sun Burns. And this is 4 Texas black metal bands. This thing came out in 2004, but it's Bohemeron, whose drummer took his life last year, so they're no more. Right after they were going to reform, Blash died, which kind of sucks. Crimson Massacre, so who I'm not familiar with. I don't think they did anything else. Funeral Rites, and Adumas. I don't think any of these bands are around anymore, but I know Bohemeron, they did a lot of stuff, and Adumas I'd recognized more than that, but I listened to this a few times when I got it, and that was it. Okay, a couple more and we're done with this one. We're winding down on the time here. Dantas is a black metal band. They're part of that Black Twilight Circle collective of bands that has a lot of really, really sick bands. Dantas, this is Shadow Plays of Grief and Pain. If I remember correctly, the production on this is fucking abysmal. It's almost unlistenable. It's too low. You can't hear anything. And I don't think I've ever listened to it much past that, if this is what I'm thinking of. I'll throw it in and see if it jogs my memory here. What does come out? Trio Productions. I've never heard of that. Out of Connecticut. I'm not sure. And if I'm wrong about the Black Twilight Circle, I might be confusing this band with somebody now that I think of it, but I'll have to pull up the archives and look. Ashpool is a black metal band from New York that I think Dominic Furnow from Prurient was either in this band or had a hand in this band, but I know that they put out stuff on Hospital Productions, his label. But they're a real, like, shrill, staticky, fucking fast black metal band. I really like this album. This is World Turns on Its Hinge. I got a couple other 7 inches in their full length as well, another full length as well. But this is good shit. Usually, New York and black metal don't go together. I think that's kind of an oxymoron. Yeah, if your black metal band is straight out of the depths of Brooklyn, they're not black metal. That's my opinion. But I like this. I like this album. This is a dumb comp that I bought when I was like 15 years old in high school called At War with Society. It was only 99 cents. It's a bunch of shitty, like, late 90s punk rock. There's a couple of Sam I Am songs on here, and I think that's why I bought it, and because it was $1, but I don't know anything about this. So it's a comp of all kinds of stuff. I mean, Christ on a Crutch, UK Subs, No Use for a Name, Reagan Youth is on here, Hogan's Heroes is on here. So there's some decent stuff in Sam I Am, but Crucial Youth, I don't know, man. I haven't listened to this it came out in '98, so I was a senior in high school. So not since then have I ever fucking touched this thing. So anyway, that's it. I'm trying to keep these at this 20-minute mark. So we got one little bitty tiny stack of A's left, then we're going to move on into the B's. So keep watching, comment, let's talk about these. This wasn't a very exciting stack at all, but I told you I'm trying to go through here A to Z. I'm not leaving anything out, all the bad ones and all the embarrassing shit that I own too. So let's keep it going. Talk to you later.